tonight. Millions of dollars in aid are promised to James Smith Cree Nation as the Prime Minister makes his first visit following the mass stabbing that rocked the community. And
it's really like survival mode for me.
Hundreds of people have been booted from their homes this year as evictions are on the rise in Saskatchewan. Plus, the farm comes to the city as the Canadian Western Agribition kicks off.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It's Monday, November 28th. CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Hello, and thank you for joining us. The people of James Smith Cree Nation welcomed the Prime Minister of Canada today. It was his first visit to the grief-stricken community since a mass stabbing killed 11 people and injured 18 others. Justin Trudeau was there to listen and to deliver promises of help. Kendall Latimer reports.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau started his visit at a small Anglican church graveyard in the community where 7 of the stabbing victims were buried. Trudeau trudged through the fresh snow, offering his respects by laying tobacco, making the sign of the cross, and offering a moment of silence.
He takes that time, and I'm very grateful that he took this time to come and grieve with us.
After paying tribute to the victims, Trudeau had a private meeting with community leaders and those affected by the violent tragedy, including people who lost their loved ones.
Earlier today, I got to sit down with a number of family members to hear your pain, to hear your anger, to hear also your hope for the future and your doubts that it will get better.
Trudeau was presented with a traditional star blanket and eagle feather. Then he moved on to the local school. This is the first time the Prime Minister has visited James Smith Cree Nation since the mass stabbing. It happened nearly 3 months ago, but the grief and trauma are still raw for many. Daryl Burns lost his sister Gloria during the attacks. He says more supports are needed.
Time is of the essence for a lot of these people when they seek that treatment center. Like right after this tragedy happened, there was a lot of people that wanted to access help, but in reality, you had to wait.
On Monday, Trudeau said the government has heard the community's needs loud and clear. He announced $62.5 million to support culturally grounded healing and mental health services.
Today, we're taking action to improve access to care for the people of James Smith Cree Nation. We'll invest $40 million over 6 years to build a new wellness centre here in the community and to repurpose the existing Saquatamo Lodge to address immediate needs.
It's going to be a great place for all of us to be able to go, and we can adapt to the future with the new strategies of health and well-being for our people. I can just imagine those good days ahead.
Trudeau says millions will go to community-led safety and wellness projects, and he pledged to make First Nations policing an essential service. Community leaders expressed gratitude. They say while there is a long way to go in terms of healing, these programs will help spare younger generations from the lingering trauma and pain. Kendall Latimer, CBC News, James Smith Cree Nation.
Hundreds of people gathered in Saskatoon today to discuss truth and reconciliation. Cowessist First Nation Chief Cadmus Delorme gave a keynote speech on what he sees as the way to move forward. Delorme told the crowd that everyone has a role to play in reconciliation. This is the 8th annual Wichihidowin Conference, which is a Cree Soto term meaning to help each other and to work together.
So as we're really moving to reconciliation, we must all check ourselves, this is Indigenous and non-Indigenous, on what we always thought was the truth to what is the truth today. Because once we know the truth, reconciliation can come with so much more of an open mind and open heart, and we're actually going to get there.
About 800 people bought tickets to attend the conference in person, with more watching virtually. The Saskatchewan Landlords Association says evictions are on the rise in our province. For many, making rent is a monthly struggle, and increasing living costs are making that even more difficult. Pratush Dayal reports.
Larissa Sellers fell behind in her rent this fall. Then in early November, she and her 3 children were evicted from their Regina apartment. The 35-year-old single mother has no choice but to split her family up. They're all staying with different relatives, and she's not sure if she can afford to rent another place.
I'm pretty much getting down to the point where it's like you decide whether you're going to buy groceries that month or if you're going to pay your rent. It's really, really bad, and I work. It's on Saturday.
Sellers earns little over $3,000 a month after taxes. If she pays rent and buys groceries, she's left with about $700 to cover other expenses. And with 3 kids, it doesn't go far. The Office of Residential Tenancy says there were almost 1,000 evictions in Saskatchewan between April and the end of August. And this month alone, there were at least 130 evictions, according to the court records posted online. Advocates say every day people on income assistance are being evicted or threatened with evictions. But the government says it's doing its best to support people.
The last budget, we increased the amount that we give for the basic benefit, as well as for the shelter benefit, and that has, helped with affordability.
Len Usiskin works to provide affordable housing in Saskatoon. He says how benefits are being paid out is part of the problem.
They stopped making direct payments of rent and utilities to landlords and utility companies, and that's led to a huge increase in arrears, and that eventually, if that's not addressed, that leads to people being evicted or moving out in the middle of the night.
Sellers says her rental issues went beyond a shortage of money. Her basement was flooded, resulting in cockroaches and black mold. She took her landlord to court, and now she says other landlords don't want to rent to her. And a 15-year-old daughter is suffering.
My mental health has just been not that good. It impacted my mood. I was really upset all the time. Yeah.
We pretty much take it day by day, and we're looking for a place. I have applied with affordable housing, but with affordable housing, there's long waiting lists for that too.
Sellers is searching for a clean, affordable place to rent and says the situation is even worse for those on income assistance. Pratush Dayal, CBC News, Saskatoon.
December 2nd.
And as people struggle to pay rent, the Regina Food Bank is hoping to help an increasing number of people struggling to pay for food. The organization is in the initial stages of planning a community food hub. It could be a few years until the project opens its doors, but a location has already been chosen downtown. The food bank has a deal in principle to purchase the former SLGA store on Broad Street and 12th Avenue. The organization's CEO says the food hub will operate differently than their current services.
The structure of it is going to be closer to a grocery store. We're still working through the logistics and making sure we have the supply to meet the demand. But it will be very much like that, where folks can come in and actually sort of choose the items in their hampers, as opposed to having a prefabricated hamper sort of delivered to them or available for pickup.
Bailey says giving people choice affords dignity to those experiencing food insecurity. More people who are fully employed are now accessing the food bank, and the organization believes a centralized location will help everyone in the city. Saskatchewan's Finance Minister will provide a mid-year financial update tomorrow morning. The last time Donna Harpower released the financial figures, she revealed the province was bringing in a lot more revenue than it projected. Today in question period, the leader of the opposition said that windfall revenue has not benefited Saskatchewan people. The finance minister disputes that.
But where she maybe did miss the mark a little bit was that nobody benefited from that windfall, when in fact that is indeed false. All of the adults in Saskatchewan benefited with an expenditure of $450 million, where every adult in Saskatchewan who filed income tax will receive a $500 check.
Opposition leader Carla Beck called the $500 check, quote, cold comfort. Beck asked what, if any, new cost of living relief would be announced tomorrow. Harpower says the opposition would have to wait and see. The YWCA Regina says inflation has added millions to the cost of constructing a new facility. The Centre for Women and Families is being built at the old Victoria school site. It will eventually replace the current YWCA Regina building downtown. The centre was initially expected to cost $45 million. The YWCA says it was fully funded until inflation drove up construction costs. The organization is looking to make up the increase of nearly $18 million.
Because of that, we're looking at needing to fundraise more. So March of last year, we had covered everything we needed, and now we're needing to go back to ask to cover those costs.
And what would the total amount be then?
So the total build is $63 million.
Okay, right now.
Yeah, right now. Yeah, and $18 million of that is inflation.
Earlier today, Connexus Credit Union announced a donation of $1 million. It will go toward an outreach center to be located inside the new 85,000 square foot facility. The outreach center will help women and families escaping domestic violence. Talk about a change of scenery. Just a week ago, the Real Grounds in Regina were host to Grey Cup festivities. Now they're housing 2,500 farm animals for a much different event.
3, 2, 1.
The burning of the brand officially kicks off the 51st Canadian Western Agribition. The week-long agricultural show is welcoming 1,200 delegates from more than 80 countries.
Producers in this province have to be recognized for the work that they are doing in genetics and improving the livestock sector right across the board in this country. When you see ranchers coming from Mexico and other countries to look at what we're doing here in genetics, is a story that has to be told and isn't told enough.
One of the folks you saw wielding a branding iron was Andrea Robertson, the CEO of Stars Air Ambulance. The emergency service has been Agribition's charity of choice for 8 years, raising $250,000. Well, all good things come to an end. Classic Saskatchewan winter weather, snowy, windy, and cold, came back with a vengeance today. In Regina, it was even hard to see across Wascana Lake. CBC's Heather Morrison will tell us how much more of this we can expect to have to endure. That's coming up after the break. Welcome back. The pandemic is contributing to a worrisome backlog for processing Pap tests in Canada. And as Lauren Pelly reports, the laboratory sector was already experiencing staffing shortages before COVID hit.
After experiencing 2 abnormal Pap tests and unexplained bleeding, Wendy Yen went for another test a few weeks ago.
It's my 3rd Pap to see if anything's rectified itself, which is nerve-wracking in and of itself.
Even more stressful, the wait for results could be several months.
Like 5 times as long to wait for a diagnostic test is a very, very, very long time.
2 of Canada's leading lab companies, Life Labs and Dynacare, told CBC News there are increased turnaround times across much of the country for Pap tests.
And then I open it.
That screening tool is used to catch early warning signs of cervical cancer. It's a slow-growing threat, says this family physician, but one that's worth catching early.
So they come in to get their Pap smear, and now all of a sudden there's this long wait attached to it. And understand, just to get in to see me has been a couple of months.
The backlog is linked to high demand after years of delays during the COVID-19 pandemic. But we've also learned that Canadian labs are dealing with ongoing staff shortages, making it harder to tackle this surge of samples.
Only a dozen or so cytotechnologists graduate in Canada each year, and this school is the last place where they train.
It's extremely concerning that we are now situated as the only educational institution for educating cytotechnologists across the country. As you can see that there
Michener Institute professor Catherine Brown teaches a small cohort of students how to evaluate patient cell samples, looking for subtle changes that could signal health issues like cancer.
Preventive health is really what we should be promoting.
I've worked on
Wendy Yen, stuck waiting, agrees.
Early detection always equals less treatment, and we're not detecting anything early with the state of the labs.
Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln. 22 model clear out is on now.
Heather Morrison joins us now with a look at our forecast. Quite the change from last week, isn't that right, Heather?
Yes, we were very spoiled last week, Natasha, and now we're getting a dose of reality. Let's take a look at what's going on in the province. It has been a wild day for weather. So as you can see, from corner to corner, we've had a low pressure system moving through, and that's going to be sticking around. See, this is us tomorrow morning waking up. More snow. It's particularly hitting the central east portion of the province. You can see a little bit of the darker colors. There's those darker purples. That's where the most snow is hitting. And that is going to continue on through until tomorrow or Wednesday. We're finally going to see some clear skies. But the snow is just half of the story of what's going on in our province. We have got a big set of wind. As you can see, wind speeds still up to 61 kilometers per hour in swift current. So there's been a lot of wind going on in the province as well. That has been creating a situation of blowing snow. So let's take a look at the visibility right now. So you can see in Kindersley, just 200 meters of visibility there on the highway. As I expected, this has gone down since the sun set, so we can expect it to be a pretty tricky night on the highways. Let's take a look at those highway conditions. Anywhere that you see a dotted line, that means that there is reduced visibility. If you peek over, it's a little tricky to see on your screen, but near Wadena, Foam Lake, we've got travel not recommended on a section of highway there. It's not a great time for highway travel. Now, as this low pressure system moves through, what we're going to see is we are going to see a drop in temperature as well. It's going to be replaced by a cold front. So as you can see, those colder temperatures, those darker blues coming in, that means by Wednesday, we're going to be really dropping down in temps. As you said, Natasha, it was quite a lot compared to last week. We were 5 or 6 degrees above normal. Now we're going to start being 5, 6, even by the end of the week, about 10 degrees below normal for this time of year. So let's take a look here at the 7-day forecast for Regina. So as you can see, it's still going to be snowing tomorrow. That is expected. That wind, unfortunately, also still kicking around. So I do expect that blowing snow and that poor visibility on the highways to still be there. Those cold temperatures really moving in. You can see Wednesday minus 15, by Friday minus 19, and a little bit more snow. That's the other part I didn't tell you about. There's another system building in Alberta that's heading our way. Let's take a look now at Saskatoon. So minus 10, a little bit less wind in the central region, but we're going to trade you off for some colder temperatures. Take a look at Friday. This is what we got to be prepared for here. Minus 23 is the high. We're going to be dropping down to minus 31. I don't think I've seen minus 31 for a while. So here we go, Natasha. We are truly entering winter, and that is a look at your weather forecast.
Oh my goodness, Heather, if you could have seen my facial reactions while you were delivering that forecast. I'm going to recover now. We're going to take a break. Stay with us. A historic moment today for the Supreme Court of Canada as it welcomed its newest jurist. Michelle Obansawin is the first Indigenous justice to serve on Canada's highest bench. Olivia Stefanovich has more on the milestone appointment.
Since its inception, Canada's highest court has made landmark decisions about Indigenous rights, but never with an Indigenous perspective. Now that's changing as Justice Michelle Obansawin takes her seat on the top bench. Introducing herself in her Algonquin language, Abenaki, before reflecting on breaking the glass ceiling.
I hope that my journey to this court will inspire young women to pursue their dreams. I am a big believer that if you have a goal, work hard, and never give up, you can make things happen and achieve those dreams.
A proud member of Odanak First Nation in Quebec, Obonsawin is also a fluently bilingual Franco-Ontarian. She grew up on the outskirts of Sudbury, Ontario, where her dad worked for the mining giant formerly known as Inco.
I have always gotten up and continued, at times with trepidation, but always moving forward.
Obonsawin began her legal career with the RCMP and taught Indigenous law at the University of Ottawa after collecting a wealth of academic achievements.
Michelle, you must be running out of degrees to take on.
The Chief Justice calls her appointment an important step towards reconciliation.
I hope your story of persisting in the face of doubt will encourage students listening to today's ceremony to follow their dreams.
Before joining the Supreme Court, Obonsawin was the first Indigenous judge named to the Ontario Superior Court of Justice in Ottawa.
I look forward to seeing the diverse perspectives you encapsulate as you enrich the decision-making process as you take on this role.
Known for her expertise in mental health, labor, and Indigenous law, Obonsawin replaces retired Justice Michael Moldaver to play a key role in the top court's modernization. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
Heather Morrison is here with another look at how tonight and tomorrow are shaping up. Any chance we are done shoveling, Heather?
Well, what I like to say about shoveling right now is you have now and then half later make the job easier. But no, we are not done. Let's take a look at your weather forecast overnight here in Regina. -9, and then as you can see, Natasha, we still have that snow coming down, and then we've got some wind here as well. So waking up to a pretty chilly day. -10 is the temperature, flurries and a little bit of wind sticking around, and then still same story about noon. So not improving throughout the day. Very similar story here in Saskatoon. Little bit less wind, but a lot more snow. We're expecting about 10 centimeters overnight. So it just really depends on how you want to break your back, if you want to do it in 2 parts or if you want to do it in 1. But there is still a lot of shoveling to be done.
Thanks for that advice, Heather.
You're welcome.
A disappointing weekend for the University of Saskatchewan Huskies as they fell to Laval yet again in the Vanier Cup. Quarterback Mason Nias was hoping for redemption in his 5th and final season, but it wasn't meant to be.
It's hard. It really is. And the further you get, the deeper you get, it becomes even harder. And it's those handful of plays and those opportunities and just being able to maximize those when we have them. And I think that no doubt that we'll learn from that and carry it forward.
Coach always says before every year, program was here long before all of us, it'll be here long after us. Just try to leave the best legacy possible and try to kind of make it better for the next guy behind you. And I think I've done that here for the university. But with that being said, I've made lifelong friends, an abundance of football knowledge. I've become a better football player and a better person. And that'll lead me to be better in my career as a teacher, in business, be a better husband, be a better father. And I think you know, that's all I can, I'm very proud of all that stuff, so it's given me a lot.
The Rouge et Or topped the Huskies 30-24. Laval has a 4-1 lifetime record against the Huskies, including Vanier Cup victories in 2004 and 2006. Nias was hoping to close out his record-setting university career with a win. He broke the Huskies' single-season passing record this year. That's it for us. Have a good night.